Today is Faith Friday, and we are going to be discussing Psalms again. I've got this pretty book, the ESV version. It is a beautiful book that just gives you scenic pictures to look at as you read it, to think of God's beauty. Next month, I am doing a Bible study on the beauty of God. So we'll be doing Genesis 1, and then we have 3 Psalms that we're going to look at. But since we are doing that, I have gotten this book, How to Read and Understand the Psalms. This, to me, is a very easy read. I have actually been reading them up to 124. So I would encourage you to get it. I can't give copies or give out a lot of information. I can give a little. So I will leave a link in the description below so you can check that book out if you would like to get it. So today we're going to read Psalms 1, which is a morning prayer. Psalm 1, Blessed is the man who walks not in counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, and yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does he prospers. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will stand in the judgment, not sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. So David is saying to think on the things of God. You can look at this pretty picture of the trees. God made this, the beauty of his work. So some of the things that I pulled out of this, how to read the Psalms. So the book of Psalms was the first book printed on the Gutenberg press when it was invented. Psalms 23 is the best known. The book of Psalms is a book of praise hymns, a song sung to an instrumental accompaniment, and Psalms means a song of praise, a sacred song, or a hymn. Now, Psalter, which is spelled Psalter, I believe, is a book of hymns. So that's the plural for psalm. So they're intended to be sang. So they're different forms of poetry. Covers over 1,000 years of history from Moses to the exilic period. One thing I found very fascinating with this, and I didn't write it on here, is that up until the time of King David and when he started writing the Psalms, the services, the ceremonies and all that were made for God and performed for God were not musical. David brought the first music to our ceremonies and our like Sunday schools today and Bible studies and worship. So there are 5 books. Books 1 through 41 is book 1. Books 42 through 72 is book 2. They're mostly written by David during troubled times, but most end with praise. Book 3 is 73 through 89. Anticipates Israel's exile. It's considered the dark book because the house of David falls and the sanctuary is destroyed. Then book 4, which is 90 through 106, is when Israel is in exile and there's no king, but the Psalms fall back on God as the hope and the spirit. And then book 5 is praises for God for Israel being restored in their return from exile. In some of the Psalms, the psalmist speaks to God. In others, he speaks to God to others, speaks of God to others. So this has been, I've been finding out quite a bit. This is going to go in my Psalms Bible study next month. I'm getting it ready. This is some of it. So we're doing the beauty of God and sunflowers, and this is the free PDF Bible study part of it. We're doing Genesis 1, Psalms 8, Psalms 9, and then Psalms 104. And we have a long list of collaborators or designers, however you want to look at them, participants that are helping us out. So there is that. I have been really, really enjoying reading how to read and understand the Psalms. So I've really been enjoying reading the Psalms and having that book that gives me a little more explanation of what some of the thought patterns and what other people may have noticed. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but it does make a difference when you have more than just one perspective. I was surprised to find out that Psalms 1 and 2 were actually a morning prayer and an evening prayer. I know that some of them aren't prayers, but that was something new to me. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. So when you think about God all day, all night, you don't have time to be worrying about all these other people, what they're doing or not doing. In our busy world these days, we're all on the internet and looking at everything and worrying about everything, and half the times it just gets blown out of proportion before things are over. And instead of worrying about that, we could think about God and think about His beauty. And if you just step away from the TV, the internet, the computer, look outside. I don't go outside a lot because I have asthma, and right now it's hot here in Georgia. What the air quality is bad, but you can still sit here and look out your window and see the flowers and the trees and the skies. I have deer that come up sometimes. I live in a subdivision, and I would have thought there wouldn't have been deer, but they're all the time everywhere. When I had a garden, they ate on my garden. I didn't know what to do about my garden, but I finally give up because I didn't want to fight with them and be mean. And if I had to have that garden, I'd had to do something, but I didn't have to have it. So, but when I did read that, the first two Psalms were the first one is a Psalms of mourning, and then like morning early when you get up in the morning, the sunrise morning. And I remember when I used to be told, well, you need to meditate and you need to think on God, and be like, I don't do that with all these worries I got going on. And I still do that sometimes. I'll be like, well, how are you supposed to do that? But with the world that we're in at the moment, it does help the spirit to just take a moment and step away from all that stuff going on. Even if you just do crafts, and it's still a good thing to get away from the TV. You could sit on the back porch and do your crafts, or just sit and listen to the Bible being read on your phone. You don't have to do a lot to get away from all that's going on. Because I'll tell you, for me, it has stressed me quite a bit. All that's been going on in the last couple of weeks in the U.S. Well, actually the whole year and more, but because it's a scary time. And I've found that for me, it's just better not to go hunting for all this stuff because, like I said, people, they just get so much going on. One person will say this and then somebody else will say that, and it will just keep on growing. You ever notice that, how things just grow when a rumor starts, or even not a rumor, but the truth? It starts, and then the next thing you know, it's all over the place, and it's a whole new problem. It's totally out of context. So, but I have been working on Jesus in July 24 collaboration. I don't know where I put my ladies. Maybe on. So these nice ladies are helping me. Put them, yeah, maybe over there. They are all helping me with the Jesus in July Bible study that's going on right now. We are celebrating the birth of Jesus. We first looked at the prophecies that were given way back in Isaiah, and there's plenty. There's all kinds in the Old Testament. We specifically looked at Isaiah 7:14, where he told that the virgin would have a child and it would be called Emmanuel. And then we started looking at Luke and Matthew, the first couple of chapters in each one that tell the story of Jesus, of his birth. We talked about why Mary, why was she chosen? And we talked about why was Joseph chosen? Why is Joseph not talked about as often? I mean, he has a very small role when you read it in the Bible, but for him to raise Jesus, he had some influence on him, I would imagine. Just like anybody raising kids. He took Jesus as his own son and raised him and taught him what he needed to be taught. In one aspect, when I think about that, I wonder if Jesus really needed to be taught anything if he already knew it all. And I didn't mean that to sound ugly. It kind of came out that way. But, you know, Joseph is a man that gets very little credit, but think about it, he's sitting on the sidelines and he has a very important part in this story and in Jesus' life. He protected Mary, and they went to Bethlehem just so that for the census, and God worked that out to where Joseph needed to go back to Bethlehem for Jesus to be born there. And then also, I may have talked about it. Seems like I did. I've done a lot. I can't remember right now. I don't have it in front of me, but Caesar Augustus had wanted so he could know how to tax the people and know how many people were there and what taxes he should be getting and shouldn't be getting. And really, it's probably more that he should be getting. But then I put one in the wrong place, but I'm going to leave it. Bethlehem was a small little town. It was the city of David. David was born there. So Jesus was being born in the city of David. Could have been born in Jerusalem where they were at, but God didn't want him born there. So circumstances worked out that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, in a manger, of all things, of all places. So my middle daughter, Chrissy, she was born on November 11th. I don't know what was going on that year, but they were having babies out in the hallway. Seriously, they had so many babies that at that point that were being born that day that they were like, well, we don't know if we can get you a room or not. And you may have to sit in the hallway. And we did have a few that gave birth out here. And I was like, no, I ain't. Just find me a closet, find me somewhere. I ain't having her out here in front of everybody. But think about Mary. She was probably had those same feelings, maybe a little bit different, but she was having her baby in the lowliest place in a manger. It smelled and was dirty. Who would want their baby to come into that? But she trusted God, so that's where Jesus was born. And since it was such a busy little town with everybody coming back for the census, there was a question asked, why didn't they stay in the inn? Why was it so crowded? Well, because everybody had to go back to their hometown to be counted. So it's not like now where you can be counted wherever you live at and not have to go back to your birthplace. So there was a lot going on. And then, Wednesday, I talked about why the shepherds and what was their role. Well, the shepherds were, they were the people that were in the lowest class of jobs. They worked outside all day. They smelled. They, they chased the sheep around all over the place. It was a very dangerous job. And you were out there all day and night. So, but God chose them and said, hey, I want you to go and worship my son, the newborn king. And why did he do that? Why did God say, hey, you of little, I'm trying to figure out, how do I say that? You have lower social status than most other people. I want to see my son first, not the kings and the queens and all that would be going on if Jesus were born in the kingship of the time. Even today, if Jesus was born, there would be a lot of fanfare and all if he were born at a castle. But God didn't want it that way. He wanted Jesus to be down here with all of us and to be able to connect with all of us. So if Jesus had been born in a palace, do you think that he would have been accessible to people? I don't think so. And God knew that. God said, no, I want him born right here in this place to where he can relate to my people, that they can see him and they can listen to him. And all the stories that he gives. I mean, Jesus had, in his short lifetime or his short ministry, he taught to many people. He made all kinds of miracles. And if he had been in a palace somewhere, these people would not have known Jesus. They might have heard of him, but they wouldn't have really known him. So the way it happened is Jesus was just like any of the rest of us. He was made a man, and he came from the same background as a lot of people. But when I started thinking about those questions, why this person and why that person, and it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You have to ask, why me? I know I ask that a lot of times, why me? Why did God choose me to be so blessed, to be his child? Why did he even give me the chance? Because I know I ain't perfect. And that's why he sent Jesus, because he knows nobody's perfect except for Jesus. And he had to do it so that Jesus lived through the same things that we do. And people couldn't say, well, no, Jesus didn't live through a poor life and with little or nothing. He had everything. Well, he could have had everything, but he didn't. He chose to do what God asked him to do, and to be on the same level as we are, so that we could relate to him. I mean, sometimes you think, oh, I can't relate to Jesus because he's perfect and he's this. And no, he was perfect, yes, but he knows what we're going through, and he lived that life. And then he even died for us, knowing that it was for our sins, not his. So that just, for me, like most of the time, it's hard to even imagine that somebody would love me that much, that they would die for me. And not just for me, but for all of us. He could have said, no, I don't want to do this. And we would still be in the same shape that we were before he was born, before he died, and went to heaven. So can you imagine how much that Jesus loves us, how much God loves us, to have given his son to take our place? That is a big sacrifice, to offer your child up. But God did, because he loved us and he wanted all of us to be able to know him and to know Jesus. So I definitely try to celebrate that as much as I can. That is one of the reasons why we're doing Jesus in July, because there's Christmas in July, so we need to have Jesus in July to celebrate the whole meaning of Christmas, because without Jesus, you can't have Christmas. It just didn't happen that way. So And there are people that don't celebrate Christmas. There are people who do, who do not believe in Jesus. But, you know, by showing what we know about Jesus and talking about him and doing little Bible studies and crafting things, you may not reach but one person. That one person could go and reach millions, and you would never know that your one little talk changed the world like that. You know, sometimes I'm like, I just ain't getting no views. Seems like all I'm doing is trying, and I'm not getting nowhere. But you know what? I have to remember that God makes it in His time and not mine. So don't get discouraged. I know there's a lot of us out here that are working on getting a channel set up and getting a community. I tell you, my community has been growing slowly, but the one thing that I can tell you from the community that I have around me is that all of them that stay, they have been here and have walked with me through different things. I've been there for them. They've been there for me. So don't rush it and just let God send who He wants to send your way. Even though I know it's hard because here I'm talking about it and I worry too. I'm like, I only need this and this and this and I can be here. And I say all that and you don't hear it because usually I don't say it when I'm on in the video. I probably do and don't think about it. But yeah, for some reason today I just feel like I need to put that out there for those who are just really struggling with their online community, just to keep going. Because God has His reasons for you doing what you're doing. See, like me, I would never believe this, that I would do videos and actually have fun making them. But I do. And I have fun answering questions and talking to people, and I meet so many new people that I never would have met. I mean, I have friends in Scotland and Ireland and China and all over the world. It's just amazing. I did work on this a little bit last week. No, I hadn't said that yet, but I did. It's hard to believe. I got a little bit in. I'll get to working on it, and then I'll work on it for a couple of weeks, and then I'll set it to the side. And if I set it to the side for too long, especially out of sight, then I just totally forget it. This one's been in there for 2 years, but since I've said, well, I'm going to commit to 1 day a week of working on this with you guys, that has helped. It's given me a little incentive. So I don't know if you diamond paint, if you ever. So my mom is, I don't want to say blind because she says it's not blind, but she is, for all intents and purposes, she cannot drive. She has low vision. She can see shadows and stuff. But one thing that I do now, and I notice I do it more, is I will feel of this and just kind of run my fingers over it. And then like right here, I feel this one that's popping out, and I just take my fingernail and pop it back in. But it's like a tactile thing. So I use my brayer to rub it down too, but there's still some that just don't want to go down. And if you rub your hand over it, you can feel them. Might take you a minute to figure out which one, but if you're looking, you may not see them. When you're feeling, you feel it poked out. So yeah, things that I used to never would have thought about, I'm now thinking about and trying to work with. But I think we're done for today. Hope you enjoyed the first Psalms and you got a little information that helped you to understand it a little bit better. Hope you have a great weekend. It'd be great if you hit that like button. Leave me a comment. It could be on diamond painting, it could be on the Bible, it could be on whether it's sunny or rainy outside. I don't care. But leave me a comment and let me know what's going on with you. Thank you, and y'all have a great weekend.